we'll be talking about why I made the advanced Reeves test. Then I will talk about sourcing Reeves for functions, and then I will talk about how I approach banning the ban process. And so first, the advanced Reeves test. So the Reeves test we had before, I felt was very lackluster. It was by the book. It was 20 questions about the rules of play. However, they covered the whole kind of rule book, but mostly not any of it was very general. My big gripe was that there was a very specific question about construction of flails, when flails were not at all popular in our kingdom. It felt very like a very out of place question. So my thought process going in was making the individual tests to address more specific issues that I think our population was facing. And especially in the battle gaming section, because that was where I had the most direct, our players are struggling with this on the field, so I'm going to put this in the Reeves test so that I know that they are at least looking it up or getting the correct answer if they brute force the test. And I especially enjoyed this with the construction portion when I added that, because when I did my first weapons check as KGMR, I ran into I failed a lot of weapons, and all of them were basic construction problems, namely like tapers. And so adding questions like that, I was hoping would help address the population or the populace into fixing these problems. Sourcing Reeves. People every now and then talk about the Reeves Guild. Why isn't the Reeves Guild a thing, or it was a thing, or it is a thing? And I tell them that most of our by the book qualified Reeves are officers at local parks, and when they go to events, we should not make them work because they work at their park. And even then, I would not really want random people that I'm not familiar with reaving if I was specifically wanting Reeves for something. If I want Reeves for something, I will ask specific people that I trust to reave correctly. And I don't think that means always being correct. I think that means prioritizing the flow of the game and the ease of understanding for what's happening. Because sometimes that can be like, no, everyone else, ignore what they just did, they did it wrong. And then I'll take that person aside and be like, this is what you did, blah, blah, blah. You should have done this because what you're doing was incorrect for whatever reason. Or sometimes if it's like at the end of the game, you're just like, something incorrect happened, but the game's over now. Sometimes you can run it back, sometimes you don't. That's a judgment call. Larger fields. Yeah, where have you been, Oz? You've been Metacrat. But big judgment call. I really should have written some material down for this, dang. Does anyone have any questions about stuff I've covered so far? Because I realize I'm talking very fast.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
I really do like the Reeves test. I have not taken the previous one, so I don't have anything to compare it to. But I did notice that when you take all 5 of them at once, it tells you you pass if you get a certain percentage right. And so let's say like this very anonymous person got like 6 questions wrong in the battle game section, but still managed to get a high enough score that they pass. It still tells you that you pass. So I was wondering if maybe they should have to be separate sections.
I think if you want to proctor them that way, you can. But the goal in that then was also being like, if you want to take all the tests, you can, I guess, to say you did. But it's still just overall score. Like, it wouldn't be any different if there was 2 sections were just one test, and then they just did really poorly on that section of the singular test. In my mind, there's not a like huge, like, meaningful difference between taking individual sections, that makes sense.
You have validated me.
Okay. And it's like, I think Feronia messaged me and was like, "Thank you so much for making an individual officer section for the test because they didn't know a lot of the like fighting and battle gaming stuff, but they knew all the officer stuff very well, and that made it a bit easier for them to be qualified to just be an officer at their park."
Yeah, because my understanding, and I could be wrong, but my understanding is you only technically have to pass one, particularly the officer one, to actually be qualified, but then the advanced one is, to be better.
No, so you can take any of them because the Kapoor still says a 20-question test,
Oh, okay,
and
great.
all of the sections are 20 questions, so you can just take the section you're most comfortable with. And this is sort of what I was talking about when you source reeves for like reeving a tournament or reeving a battle game, you usually should just ask people you trust to do the job correctly, as opposed to just people that are qualified, technically. Yes. And I'm going to throw out my things I was going to talk about and just let it flow because that'll make me less nervous. And so I'm going to talk about weapon checking for a bit. When I ran for GMR, it was something that is a issue that I wanted solved because Darkmoor showed up to every event, or if he did show up, he did weapons check. If he didn't show up, people were like, "Who's going to do weapons check?" And so I made a point of saying, "I will be here at this time and I will be doing weapons checks." And like on Friday and on Saturday, because we were just doing 3-day events at the time. And honestly, it was my favorite part of the job was checking weapons, getting to chat with everyone a little bit, and like talk to them about their weapon, about like if it failed, or I wouldn't say anything if it passed, but if it failed, specifically telling them like this is what was failed. Here's how you could fix it. And a lot of people were able to fix it because at some of the events people had weapon repair kits. And it also very much drives you to like make sure you understand construction of weapons, what makes them good, what makes them bad, and what makes them technically legal, and not safe, and therefore technically not legal. Checking armor is also an interesting thing, mostly because my first time checking, I actually like brought a caliper and would check things. Afterwards, it was very much of a more of a that looks correct enough, like on thickness or material, and then assessing, do I think it gets any other modifiers? Which this was before the armor system was simplified a bit as well. One thing that I really wanted to do, but I did not take the initiative of just asking for volunteers, was doing archery checks by like shoot testing every arrow. Several of my 2 or 3 of my events that I was KGMR for, volunteers did step up and get that running, to which I was very grateful because that was something I didn't have to do, and it ensured this better safety for everyone at the event. Sourcing reeves. So now especially, the KGMR is in charge of the tournaments, Weapon Master specifically. Very big deal, as I'm sure we're all aware. When you're sourcing reeves for these sorts of things, someone that I think would be a really good battle game reeve may not be a good tournament reeve. What I think, based on my experience of like getting better at reeving tournaments, was asking people that are typically, this is a generalized statement, people that are better at fighting will typically be better at reeving a fight because they have a better understanding of what's happening. And one thing that helped me get better at reeving a fight, even if I wasn't getting particularly a lot better at fighting, was watching a fight and going through my head the sequence of events that happened. And while that's cumbersome at first, it starts to become more natural and understanding in your recall of going through a fight and then saying this happened and then that and then that and then this gets more accurate and more easy to access for talking to like another fighter or anything. Another thing that I think is very important is that, especially recently, it seems to be becoming a thing, is that we should be telling fighters to communicate. Since I've been out of office, I've been hearing anecdotes of people not communicating in a fight, and I think that if they're refusing to communicate, they're refusing to play correctly, and that should come with consequences. So if I ever run for GMR again and run tournaments, I will definitely be asserting that. As far as like running a tournament, we've been doing the Warlord Sports style. I don't know. It was Vidalia's tournament format that she came up with that runs very well. So I think there's no reason to try and reinvent the wheel. It's typically very much based on how many people can you get to reeve that tournament, which putting out general calls is good, but like I said before, if you have people you know can do the jobs correctly and competently, you should be focusing on those people, asking those people to volunteer first. Which, making a general post asking for volunteers is good, but what's much more effective is asking people directly. It will get you a lot more traction and success than just hoping people will volunteer because they saw a post. And I'll move on to ban processes. So, one of the big things that GMR does, especially before running tournaments, the big responsibility was being one of the ban officers. And what that is you get a report, either someone reports to you or someone else on the team brings forward a report, and you help gather statements or any evidence, if there's any, or you assess what was said and any follow-up with it. And your assessment is not, well, first your assessment is, was the code of conduct broken? At least like easily, like, did someone get assaulted? Did someone steal something? Is someone blatantly refusing to follow the rules? Did someone violate the youth policy? After that, it is this person a threat to our organization? And that is not like an existential threat. It is not like a legal threat. It is, are they going to do harm, mental, physical, to our players? If the answer is yes, I think they should be removed. And when you're making this assessment, you should know ahead of time that you need to be ready to ban your friends, because that is what's good for the health of the game. For me, people have asked me, like, how do you do it? Like, this can't be easy. And I tell them it is easy because I see what's happened. And when I decide, like, when I make the assessment in my head, if I think they deserve to be banned or not, I either, like, yes, they deserve to be banned. They got what they're getting, what I think they deserve, and that makes it easy. Or I voice my opinion. I don't think this person should be banned, and it is up to then if the other people on my team agree or not. Either way, I did everything I could in voicing my opinion. And at the end of the day, making sure that the game is safer than when you started is what's the most important part. And I think that actually applies to everything I've been talking about. Making sure the game is safer than I did, yeah. Like, because my goal, everything in my reign as KGMR I did was to improve the game to make it better than when I left office. Are there any questions?
So, what is you spoke on a tournament style that Vidalia came up with? Is that the one that we've been using?
Yes.
I linked the
Oz,
Imhog Warlord style tournament in the chat.
Yeah, I don't remember. It's been a long time. I don't remember if it is. I remember she did something that iterated it and made it better. I don't know if it was like the multiple pits thing. But yeah, like the Warlord sports style with like the Iron Man going into qualifying brackets. Um, as I still hear I've heard horror stories of places that don't do this. Like I had a visitor from Griffin's Reach, somewhere in Texas, where they ran like 100+ person tournament with brackets all the way down. And I'm like, I could never imagine running a tournament that way. That's a nightmare. But yes, running this tournament format, it instead of taking all day, it takes only most of the day to run it, which I think is a great improvement. If anyone has any questions about something I didn't cover that you were hoping I would, I'm more than happy to continue yapping.
It's kind of a weird one. So I've noticed a strong preference by some people for doing tournament scoring by paper when there are like bracket apps and things like that available. Do you have a strong preference and why?
I can see both. I think I would prefer paper because when I've had to rely on programs, there were unknown issues with the program that resulted in different lineups than what the score would have shown. Like we used an Excel program, a Google Sheets program to run a tournament. The last tournament I did as KGMR, and what turned out is that when people tied, we didn't. And this is on me for not making sure things were double checked. But it just gave us like the top 8, and it turns out the 8th place had tied, but instead of like there wasn't a notification for like, hey, there's a tie here. It just put in the the people with a tie, prioritizing the first person alphabetically, which changed who was in the bracket. I guess if you have a program that you trust, by all means, go for it. Things aren't going to get better if we don't try something new every now and then. Oh yes, it was very, the person we posted the scores afterward, and the person messaged me like, "Hey, I shouldn't I have been in the bracket?" And I was like, "Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. I see this. Well, I will make sure this does not happen again. I'm sorry this happened to you," which they were cool about it. But yeah. But if there's no further questions, Oz, if you're ready to go, we can, or I can come up with something else to talk about if you need more time.
I'm good if you're good.
I hand the mic to Oz.
Okay, so I want to double check. Can everybody hear me really well?
We can hear you clearly.
Okay, cool. Because of the headset issue, I was just making sure. All right. So for some of y'all that most everybody in this chat I pretty much know, there's a name or two I don't really recognize, but my name is Oz the Drunk. I'm the Monarch of ELW currently, and I've spent one term as Kingdom Champion 3-4 years ago, something along those lines. What I'm going to share with y'all today, I'm hoping that this goes really well. What I want to try and do is a more interactive class style where we go over a topic, people ask questions, they give ideas, things like that. That way, it can be more of a verbal association memory sort of thing rather than a speech sort of thing. Nothing wrong with what Haraldr did, but this is a new style that I want to try. So if it takes a little bit longer, Laryl, I kind of apologize about that, but I want to get people a little bit active in this, give people ideas on what they might want to do, might not want to do, things like that. So if you interrupt me at any point, I don't take any offense to that because that's what this class is for. So this is going to be the basics Kingdom Champion, how to be a decent, quote unquote, Kingdom Champion. All right. Ooh, let me get on my page. Discuss preparation. Where do we begin? Things, game creation. What games we want to create for Kingdom level events? Supplies will you need to host Kingdom level tournaments, and execution. How do we execute the games and tweak them as needed? So all four of these, I kind of thought about more stuff to put into them, but I thought these were four things that really and truly kind of goes with being a Kingdom champion, because there's a lot of details involved with stuff like that. I know a lot of people genuinely think that Kingdom champion, they just put some stuff out there and people go play, and broken down to its simplest form, they're not incorrect. But when you actually understand the logistics behind doing what a Kingdom champion does, and especially ones like Bubbles, who, I think everybody has been to a Kingdom event. He's pulled out the stops. He's made walls, physical walls. He's made all kinds of different things. That to me is really good as far as preparation, supplies, things like that being used. So I think that's awesome. We're going to go through this, but like I said, interrupt me at any time if you have questions or ideas, whatever the case may be. So we're going to start with preparation. When we're doing preparation, we're going to plan and prepare for the Kingdom events. What are some things that we need to do for that? Things like or coordination or field size or Kingdom level size. Using your time wisely and utilizing battle masters and other people like that who know the game extremely well to kind of give you some ideas. There's nothing wrong with bouncing some ideas off of somebody or getting some ideas from here and there, because at the end of the day, we've got all these creative ideas, but there's nothing wrong with us pulling from other sources and things like that to make a more cohesive game. So is it me?
Yeah, it sounds like your audio is lagging, so then it speeds up to catch up, then it slows back down.
Oh, I'm sorry, y'all. I'm sorry. Hopefully we can get through this. I'll talk a little bit more slowly. Maybe that might help. Just let me know when I'm doing it, and I'll pause and let it catch up. But just to go back over preparation, when we're going to plan things and prepare for Kingdom games, what sort of things do we want to prepare for? So, as a question to y'all, what are some things that you like to see in Kingdom level games?
I like to see large utilization of larger fields so that I know that there will be a lot of space to move around and be tactical with my selection of place on the field.
Okay. Yeah.
I enjoy the heavy object not being an actual heavy object, but that's just me.
You don't like a 50-pound bag of sand wrapped in duct tape?
No, I dropped it on my leg.
I get that. When it comes to things like theme, what do we think of? This theme is Dungeons and Dragons. What are things that we would want to see on the field when it comes to Kingdom level battle games with this current theme that we're currently rocking?
I mean, it would be expensive and a lot, but a castle would be cool. I want to see some monsters in the Kingdom games. I think that would be neat.
Do you think those should be NPCs? Or do you think they should be...
NPC monsters and dragons!
I think both.
Okay.
The only time I don't really like the idea, as somebody said, Dungeons and Dragons, I think.
Okay. Did I hear somebody else? I had something weird in my headphones. Just making sure that I wasn't talking over someone. Go ahead, Invina.
I think during like the big battle games where everybody's playing at once, I think it would be really cool to have like a random lich or a random dragon just on the field and incorporated in some way. And then, like, if somebody wants to play a monster class, I think that's probably fine too. I mean, at the next kingdom level game, I'm going to have anywhere from 14 to, I don't know, 22 kingdoms of fingers of death. So let's see some monsters, okay?
Gotcha. Okay. Another thing to be careful about. Do you have reuse, or is the KGMR providing them? I think Haraldr kind of touched on this a little bit, and he's absolutely right. Our big battle games, anywhere between 60 to 100 people, right? That's a lot of different classes, everybody going all at once at the same time, right? Controlled chaos is what I like to compare it to. And we need people that can direct traffic, people that can help build a roadmap to success, to help us make sure that these games that we've created just don't start blitzing on the walls and things just going crazy, right? So we want to make sure we've got plenty of reads, right? It's an extremely crucial part of our game to make sure that they're happening properly, right? So I think Haraldr really touched on that, did a really great job, and that's kind of what we're looking for. So always want to make sure you've got reads. Coordination. Do you have any help for setup? One of the things that I've always practiced my big deal on was I always liked making sure that everything was really laid out, everything was put into the ground, everything was nailed down, everything like that. That is a lot of work for one person. And there was a kingdom event where it was genuinely just me because the tournament was going on. So I went ahead and stepped away from the tournament and let the GMR kind of run that and went and built my battle game. And it wasn't difficult, but it was strenuous because it was a lot of effort to make sure that everything got put up. If you guys ever saw Bubbles after he set his stuff up, I mean, that man was just a wet rag because of how much effort he was having to put into just setting all of his stuff up. So when it comes to, kingdom style battle games and all of that, we really want to make sure that we're getting a team together to kind of help you create that vision, to make sure that that vision is being pulled off for you. Because it is a lot of work. And being a kingdom champion or even just a regular champion at a local level is a very, very thankful job. They are never the ones that get the high fives at the end of the day. It's always the monarch or one of lines. A kingdom champion and a champion never get the crowd that they really kind of deserve sometimes. Am I doing it again, Laryl? Cutting out. Slow down. All right. But yeah, kingdom level champion can. No, you're good. Let me know. Kind of just having to work with what I got. Being a champion can be very thankless. So don't ever feel like what you're doing is never important, because being a champion or a kingdom champion is one of the thankless jobs, but it's one of the sexiest ones too, because they are the ones setting the fields. That's what people see when they see Ant. They don't necessarily see like the arts and crafts or the leadership or any of that. They see nerds hitting nerds with fun, right? So you always want to make sure you've got a big team that can try and help you, coordinate and direct traffic with you. Field size. Are you doing it at a kingdom level? Are you doing it at a local level? During my reign as kingdom champion, me and Clover did a tour around all the parks around the kingdom, and we called it the Straight On Till Dawn tour, because it was a Neverland theme. And I had to scale games based on what the projection of that park level would be that day. So knowing the field size, knowing the group size, you always want to make sure you scale to try and make things a little bit less strenuous, less complicated, because the more complicated you make things, the more complications that you have to deal with. So if you have a lot of people, sometimes a couple more complications can really help create a more difficult type battle game for people to enjoy. If it's a smaller field, you obviously want to scale back a little bit, make things a little bit more refined for people. But I think we're all pretty much used to when we play on a kingdom battle for the most part. It's genuinely a pretty big area, right? Like we're not talking like somebody's backyard. We're talking pretty big. So we always want to make sure that we're looking at field size and how big of an area we've got before we start kind of going into this stuff. Something that we've started doing at ELW, which I think is fantastic, that I would definitely love to see at kingdom level too. Our walls, our barriers, things like that, they're all measured to 10-foot lengths. So when you're looking down and you're standing at one point, you know where 20 feet is because the end of the second link in that rope is 20 feet. It helps players learn how to judge areas instead of just guesstimating more and more, and the lines get longer and longer, and then you got one person on one side of the field, person on the other, and they're trying to just cast a show. So I think that that's always great. We definitely want to try and promote a way for our players to know how to gauge the field size as well, right? Because if we're in a big field like we are at, I'm not Buck Tom's. I can't think of the name of it. What was the last one we were just at? The Buck Tom's, right? The one before that, where it was the big cabins and all of that. It was a pretty large field. So we always want to make sure that we're gauging the field. We're trying to make sure we're maximizing the amount of space that we've got while also creating a safe environment for people to play in. Using and planning your time wisely. Make sure you're posting games. Make sure you're giving out little pieces here and there for people to get excited about. Sometimes when you don't post games and people really don't know what's going on, it can create a little bit of an aversion because people like to know what's going on because we like playing with our friends and we like building groups with our fighting company or whatever. So it's always good to release information to the players to let them know, hey, this is what I've got. These are the rules. And then when they go into the game as well, if they've read the rules and things like that, which does happen quite a lot, they already have a preconceived notion of what's going to happen during those battle games. It helps people understand what vision you've got for what you want to do, and you've given them the roadmap on how to successfully get there. So make sure you're using your time wisely, you're posting chats, you're making sure you're getting all your little boxes checked to make sure that everything can go off without an issue. Uh, and then just lastly, did we utilize the battle masters in the kingdom and that we know have great ideas for games? I did this quite a lot. I talked to several people, more than I have fingers and toes about my games when I did them. I realized I'm not the most amazing kingdom champion when I was there. But I did also learn that we have other people that know how these classes run, that know how these games go, and they know more than I know. So bouncing ideas off of people, getting them to kind of get a little bit involved to get your creative juices flowing, nothing wrong with it. And it's one of the best avenues that you can use as a kingdom champion is utilizing your battle masters, using people who literally wear a belt because of the fact that they play this game so well. It works so great because a lot of times too, you've thought up this really great game, and then I go to Subway and I'm like, bruh, I made this really great game. And he's like, okay, and he reads it. And then Subway and Subway Fashion goes, well, let me tell you this, Oz, and he starts poking holes in it. It's always good to have battle masters, people that have played this game forever, that know how these things work, and let them, poke holes in your stuff so that you can prepare for issues. So it's always good to use battle masters and things like that when it comes towards preparation. Does anybody have any thoughts, anything like that on preparation before? Oh, yeah, write that up. I'll write that down later. Good call, Daryl. Very good call. Anybody else? Questions? Anything like that? Silence. All right. I guess it'd probably work if I clicked it. Game creation. Do we have a vision for our game creation? How do we make games for a kingdom level platform? What is your process for game creation? Do we want to be standard or maybe come up with something new? Are you able to reskin an already existing game idea? And do you think of ways to break your own games ahead of time? I kind of already touched on that one, but let's go through it again. So, do you have a vision for your game creation? This is one of the most important aspects of what it needs or what it can be when you're a kingdom level champion, because what you want to see happen on the field is genuinely exactly what your job is, right? Because you want to have really fun games for people to be able to play in, but you also want to have other factors placed in there too. Safety. You want to have fun things to get the juices flowing. I mean, we can ditch all day long, but sometimes it's much more fun to have a more challenging type game. And when we come to trying to involve like the theme in our vision and the games in our vision, and if you're a specific style type person, trying to figure out what avenues you can best utilize in order to be able to pull off that vision. Because as a kingdom champion, some other people have served in kingdom positions as well, and I think they can attest to this as well. When you have an idea and you want to see it happen, and you're making active moves to see it happen, that vision actually is way better than an away from Kazan or whatever may happen, right? It is way better because the thing you pull off is exactly what happened. So make sure you dive as deep down into your vision as you can with like utilizing, um, our battle masters, by utilizing people that have that skill level already there, and let them help you try and come up with those ideas if you need them. Um, does anybody have anything on Vision? Anything that they've hosted a battle game for that they thought was really cool? Anything like that? All right. How do we make games for the kingdom level platform? Well, sometimes it can be a little bit challenging, right? Because if you've been a champion before, you know that when you make games at the local level, you have to understand the park size in order to be able to make the game, right? So when it comes to a kingdom level, you're talking about double, triple, quadruple the numbers that you're normally used to playing with, especially at your local park when you're just a regular player. You have anywhere between 60 to 120 people on the field at a time. So it can be a lot of things to be able to do. So when you're creating games at the kingdom level, it's always best, especially if you're, wanting to be a champion and then one day being a kingdom champion. Test out the limits of your platform, right? Test out the sizes that you have of your groups and things like that. And then all of the kingdom champions that I've ever had have always opened it up to if people had ideas or things that wanted to try that they would like to run it and things like that for you to be able to get a taste of what that platform looks like to play a game from the local level at kingdom size level. Always thinking that there's going to be 60 to 120 subways out there just poking holes in everything I'm trying to do. So always want to make sure you understand the difference between the kingdom and the local level. What is your process for game creation? What do you do to get them creative fluids juicing, right? And I said that really weirdly, and I didn't mean to. What do you do to get those creative juices flowing? Um, what's your process? What helps you get inspired to do something like Littlefoot with his Dungeons and Dragons theme? What are the processes that he uses? What are the game creations that he comes up with? We haven't even seen any of them yet. Whenever he's making these games, right? So when we saw Bubbles run his games, and I'm using Bubbles quite a lot because he's the most recent one on our memory bank, right? He made games with his battle masters, made different platforms, different ways of doing it, different types of game creations to give people a challenge, a taste of what it's like to be able to fight in a tournament, but a battle master tournament instead, where they're using their classes, things that they aspire to, they want to pair onto, or maybe they've already done that and they just want to show off some, right? Nothing wrong with any of that. But what is your process for that creation? What do you do to help you get those juices flowing? Have any of y'all ever come up with any battle games that you you had to find something for motivation or anything like that? Y'all remember, this is an interactive one. Y'all can unmute yourself and throw things at me anytime.
Can you repeat the question?
Yeah, what are things that you? I'm sorry, y'all. Just let me know if I'm breaking up. I'm really trying to make it work. What are things that you use when it comes to your process for your game creation?
So I've used, Oz, I know you probably remember this, but I made a set of games where each map was a letter of the alphabet.
Mhm.
And then when I was Kingdom Champion, the most inspired games I made were during my Adventure Time reign, or at least I was like directly taking inspiration. And I would look at the plot of what happened, and I'm like, how do I make this into a game that's like a pitched battle? In the sort of considerations of like, I need to make sure there are lanes for people to fight in, and I need to make sure that this objective I want to happen can actually happen.
Okay, yeah, I remember those games. I remember them fondly. Anybody else? Even at a local level, anything to get your juices flowing for your local level game.
So, back when I started in the Darkwater East in Florida, we had a big book of battle games way back then. Now, a lot of them were crappily written. Some of them were cool. Other ones didn't have a lot of information on. Other ones we played to death. But having just that simple reference was really, really useful. Just be like, go through and make sure you're familiarized with it, but like being able to just go ahead and poke and say, oh, I want to do these ones, and then build off of those. And then since then, I think there was another big level up for me when I encountered Sir Goran's Book of War. And I know some of the folks here I've kind of restarted passing it out again. But it lays out a whole lot of really great concepts on battle gaming, and like Oz, you were hitting like pretty much all of them. You're doing great, and a lot of these other folks too. I mean, a lot of you guys have had the champion spot. I mean, Haraldr and a lot of other folks have done great in these things and are know exactly through the school of hard knocks on how this goes. I mean, I've been there. I hear all the things you guys are saying. But having something that's already kind of like laid out is super nice to be able to see stuff and then build off of. Like having a list of kill objectives and things that you might want to do, or capture objectives, defend objectives, puzzle objectives, travel objectives. All those kind of things kind of listed, and you're like, oh, I could do those things and build them all together. Taking all these typical games that we've all done before and then reskinning them. But by having a simple base from somewhere, like maybe you've got access to Haraldr's games, or maybe you've got access, to Oz's games, and then you can go ahead and make little changes and skin them up and, kind of make them yours. I think for me, being able to have some sort of a basis on something that works kind of already is awesome. And then once you get a feel for it, you can totally bust out on your own. But having to be able to start with something concrete that has worked for other people, I think really helps to build the confidence. And then after you've trained it, then you can go ahead and bust out and create your own stuff, like quests. I mean, quests are really easy to do terribly, but hard to do well. But if you've got like these basics down from like these battle games that we've all run consistently on the weekends, it's a lot easier to kind of build into what you want to go for a quest. So thank you, Oz.
You're welcome, bud. The man, the myth, the legend himself. Which is awesome. That really feeds into just so we can keep the relativity for what you said. Already existing game ideas. Am I doing it again? Goodness. I am so sorry, y'all. I'm doing the best I can with what I got. I'm sorry. We're gonna hop over to are you able to reskin already existing game ideas? Am I good now, or am I still breaking up? Okay, cool. Thanks, Laura. Are you able to reskin already existing game ideas? When you take a battle game, you can break battle games down. Sir Clover told us this one time, and it's something I've always kept in my memory bank. You can take a battle game, any battle game, and strip it down to its barest essentials and then rebuild it up with a new skin. And some people wouldn't even know the difference. It actually is a very good thing to be able to do, to take games and know how to break them down to their simplest forms, and then you want to build them up. So if you want to do a CTF, capture the flag, or a bridge battle, you already know the basics of how those games operate. Take those games, reskin them, put a new flavor on it, and it fits anything you want to do, right? So trying to run games at your level sometimes is nothing more than taking something that already exists and reskinning it, taking the wheel that our predecessors have already built for us and then reskinning it and putting a cool new flavor on it, right? All can break down a game to essentials and then build it back up into whatever sort of creative vision that you're looking for. And some of the other, like when I skip, do we want standard? Or with something new? Absolutely nothing wrong with trying something new. Sometimes, yes, for a reason. There's nothing wrong with taking that wheel and trying to figure out another way to be able to do it. There's nothing wrong with taking something that already exists and trying to build something else up. Or if you want to keep things pretty standard, sometimes using the wheel can be fun. So always try to be adventurous. Always try to come up with something new if you're that adventurous to do that, because there's certain things that you can do, like leaning on battle masters, talking to people who've built games, coming up with your own ideas and bouncing them off people, trying them at a local level and then trying them at a kingdom level. There's all different avenues that you can take to find success when it comes to those battle games. And then the last one, do you think of ways to break your own game ahead of time? This is something that I struggled with early on, right? Am I still good? Just making sure I didn't lose you all again. Um, this is something that I learned early on. Thanks, Carl. Um, I built big, luxurious games for the part. I have a whole folder just packed full. And I thought I did so well in making these games, new flavors, new ideas. And then I showed him the Subway, and he broke them apart. And it kind of broke my heart a little bit because it was like I poured so much love and passion and effort into this thing for him to take 5 minutes and just break the dang thing apart, right? So never get discouraged by going to someone like Hero or Subway or Floater or Haraldr. I've seen him do it before. People that understand how to play this game, especially battle masters, going to them and letting them break your games apart, because when they can break them apart, you already know how to fix them, right? All you got to do is pick up the pieces, get some duct tape and some love, and put them right back together, but better than they were before, so that those pieces don't stand out any longer. Always good to find another avenue for someone who can give you some juices and things like that. Whenever you feel like you want to try something, let someone break it apart. It's not mean, it's not bad. It's good for you to be able to see the errors of your ways, because we learn more from our mistakes than we do our successes, right? So let them help you by doing that. Does anybody have any other thoughts, questions on game creation or anything like that? Hopefully I'm still good with my mic. All right. I'll take no as a no. This is an example. I forgot I put this in here. Good job, Bob. So this is what I used for, and I don't remember if any of y'all remember this game or not. Haraldr might. Um, maybe Parrot. But this is one of the ways that I found to get my creative juices flowing, right? So I did a Kraken battle with people that had boats, and you basically had one person hold on to a stick and another person hold on to the other end, and those were your boats. And it was a boat battle. Basically, a big Kraken with a gem inside of its head, and the Lost Boys and the fairies and the pirates were all fighting monster, not knowing what it was, right? So this is something that I use just as a little platform to be able to see where I wanted my creative vision to go, right? Something just as silly as a little quick doodle while you're sitting there at work. I thought it was great. And I'm actually glad that I put this in here because I forgot that I did. Um, Something as simple as an idea can evolve or change into something so much better as if you can just go out on a limb for 10 seconds of liquid courage and try something new. And that's what I did here. That game, by the way, flopped hard, but it was really fun to be able to play it. Um, so never be afraid to step out and try something because failure isn't a bad thing. It can be a really, really good thing, like this. And I learned all the stuff that I should have done in this game that I know now, right? So don't be afraid to step out and do something fun. Um, let's switch gears. Supplies, for the love, right? There's so much that we can put into a game. Boat battle are so hard to do right. Yeah, you're exactly right, Parrot. Exactly right. Um, Supplies, for the love, man. This is one of the biggest cruxes of being a kingdom champion is how do you get all these supplies? What do you need to be able to pull off this vision so that it's not just like ribbon on the ground, which there's nothing wrong with. But when you're doing it at a kingdom level, you're trying to step up from like a more local level type vibe, right? So when it comes to supplies, what do you need to run those games? Do we actually have those supplies for the games? If we have to create certain things, what's our process? Do we know how we're going to set the game up and what kind of space do we have for our vision? And with the supplies we're wanting to use, do we have enough set up time to be able to get all that together? So, top to bottom, do we have the supplies? What supplies do we need? A lot of times you'll find that we pass kingdom level champion kits to the next person. I built one, I passed it to the next person. I can almost guarantee you, not even a state from the one that I built years ago even exists in the current kingdom champion kit. So, what supplies do we have? It's always good to take a look at what you've got, figure out what you need, and figure out A, if you have the budget for it, and B, maybe you can kind of change a little something here to make something else that you have work for you. So you always want to make sure you have those supplies. If we have to create certain things, what's our process? Someone like Bubbles, when he had to do the archery tournament, I know BDE is going to love this one, but when he had to do the archery tournament, now obviously this isn't a battle game, right? But he did build something for our archers to be able to do that I haven't seen done before, that I genuinely fell in love with. At least I hadn't seen it done in that way before. And I think a lot of us can agree on that. Um, the things he built, it was amazing. He took all these different ideas, and obviously he's good with wood, right? So but he took all these ideas and made an archery tournament that had so many different challenges and levels and things like that to show just how you can create a game and what you can do with it just by having these supplies, right? It wouldn't have been as good if it was just like us, like a little road sign, just like stay in ground fiberglass core, right? He actually built like wooden frames, multiple ones, and that sort of stuff was, it was built and transported. He had the idea, he had the vision, and he went with what he had. And I think that was awesome. So you always want to look and see kind of what supplies you've got, what supplies you need, what's your budget looking like, and how are you going to be able to, one, get those things from A to B? Because if you have a Corolla, you're not fitting a whole kingdom's level worth of games inside of your trunk, right? How are you going to get those items to where you want to go so that you can create success? So what is our process? What do you want to do when it comes to those sorts of things? And I'm sorry, y'all know I've got a daughter. She's she's loving this. How do we create certain things? What's our process for that? And going back to Bubbles again, since he's just the most recent one, he built Battlemaster tournaments, had built walls out of PVC pipes and fencing supplies. It was a great idea and it worked out really, really well. And he did it multiple times, right? And I know that Big King Bear had to tear everything down and they had to transport him and stuff like that. But that's the aftermath, right? We got to be cognizant of the before and unfortunately sometimes the after, right? So are we building these games so big with so much stuff that nobody can move them when we're done with them? It's always something that you gotta kind of be pretty cognizant of when it comes to the supplies, right? You want to make sure you've got plenty to do and plenty of stuff that you need, but not so much that it becomes one of those things. It's like, well, I don't know what to do because I don't have 6 cars. So always be cognizant of the supplies, what you need, things of that. Do we know how we're going to get the game set up and what kind of space do we have for our vision? I touched on this earlier, but I put it here again because when it comes to the supplies that you have, right, you always want to make sure that you've got enough supplies to be able to set up that space worth of vision for things to do. There's nothing wrong with ribbon on the ground with some road stakes or whatever it is to hold them down, right? Nothing at all. That is an effort being put in to give players something that they wouldn't have if they were just playing on the normal grass, right? But a lot of us, especially me at that time, thought that giving players way more than things that I had seen previously, or maybe things that I had seen that we hadn't done in a while, giving them something back that I thought they deserved was always my biggest thing. I wanted to create these grand, great things. And I stumbled quite a bit because I had bit off way more than I could chew. Any of y'all that were around for that, you remember pretty hardcore. So always want to make sure that you have the game going, you have the space, and where and when your supplies are going to apply to that vision, right? And with the supplies we're wanting, do we have enough set up time to get it all together? And this is where, excuse me, I forgot how talking so much can really dry your mouth out. Um, this is where one of the biggest and worst things about being a kingdom level champion kind of comes into play here, right? Do we have enough time to set up everything? Do you have enough time to go up there and put up your walls and pound your stakes in? If it is a dry month in the state of Georgia, you are not getting anything into the ground, right? That thing is going to bounce back no matter how hard you hit a stake into it. So, do you have enough time to set everything up? You always want to make sure that you've got your supplies ready. You get there early enough, have everything set up, and get everything going. I myself struggled with one mid-rain event where I forgot the time switch between Alabama and Georgia. Like it was, I lost an hour just crossing the line, and I didn't even think about it, and I was an hour late. So you always want to make sure that you have enough time to set up everything, do your research, have everything ready, and by the time you get there, you hit the ground running. Because this is one of the most thankless things you can ever do, is creating this vision for people to be able to do. You're getting satisfaction out of people loving the games, but you're also having to be cognizant of what you're doing, when you're doing it, and how you're doing it as well. So we always want to make sure that we have enough time and or have enough help to do our games too, right? Because sometimes one person trying to create a vision isn't enough. You have to have multiple people helping you, and there's nothing wrong with that. Sometimes you're just one man trying to do an army's worth of jobs, and it just doesn't work. That's why autocrats have so many other crats, is because one autocrat can't run an event. An autocrat is like a monarch of a really good running park. They're literally just there to give high fives and to make hard calls. That's it. So being kingdom level champion can be challenging in this way because you have to know if you have enough people to help you to get things going, right? You have to be able to utilize those supplies in an amount of time that you may not have, but you got to pull it off and pull everything together. As soon as that last game's done, and enough hammers, right? As soon as you get that game done, you're right back in the mix and you're flying into that next game, ripping things up. If you're a smart champion, you're going to use the same field over and over again with some tweaks. But if you're me and you're dumb, you're not going to do that. And you're going to want to change things up after every single game. Don't be like me. Don't do something dumb like that. So always be cautious how much time you have and who you have to be able to pull that off, because those are so important to be able to get something going. It separates the different minimal stuff and maximizing the amount of fun that every player can have. Does anybody have any ideas or thoughts about supplies or anything like that that they may have needed at one point or didn't have? Anything like that?
My
Don't forget. There you go.
my biggest pet peeve with like using rope, which I think I prefer using rope when I've been Park and Kingdom Champion. My biggest pet peeve is always when people use red or green rope. I am colorblind, and a lot of times those rope colors just disappear into the grass. Like genuinely can't see them even if I'm looking straight at them. So I think it's very important to keep in mind about color blindness. Personally, for me, blue rope works really well, or just neon yellow rope. Like, I don't see a reason to not get neon yellow rope. There's, I have not experienced a version of color blindness aside full monochromatic color blindness that does not stand out high contrast for.
Good point, Haraldr. I like that. I forgot that you were colorblind, just being honest. Anybody else?
One of the big things to me that was a massive upgrade was when we went from just having rope to being able to have a rope on a spool. So when I figured out about the electrical cord spools that you could go ahead and roll up, that was a massive upgrade rather than having constantly trying to wrap it and then everything getting all tied up in big bunches. So being able to roll everything right back up onto the spool was just a complete game changer. So that was a big deal for me.
Heck yeah, it was. I remember you actually telling me about that. And then I took that home to my local park and instituted it and made it a thing. And I forgot where I got that idea from. So thank you for reminding me where I got that idea from. See, it's so easy to pull good ideas from people that have been doing this for so long, right? Does anybody else have any examples or anything like that? Yeah, good point, Laro. I really love those flags that Screech built. I pick them up and run up. I think it just looks cool. Um, it's really easy to tear down as well. That's absolutely right, Parrot. Thank you for that. God, we need lap counters for Reeves. Yes, absolutely. I think that there's ways to improve the reading. People like Haraldr and Galley and people like that that have done that sort of stuff that they're passionate about have tried to move that bar forward, and I think it's great. We're still evolving and growing our Reeves into something really fantastic for our kingdom. But here's an example of these supplies. They're just things I thought of off the top of my head. Flagging tape was really good, Parrot. Thank you for that. But just examples, right? And most importantly, for the love of God, have a hammer, or in Meryl's case, have multiple hammers. You've got multiple people helping for the love. Don't be like me and get to an event and realize you don't have a hammer and you're an hour away from anything. Because I learned my lesson really hard with that and bought like a 10 pack the next day. Reeve whistles, absolutely. Oh yeah. Does anybody else have any examples of supplies, things like that they've used or needed or anything like that?
Oh, actually, one big one is ditch lights and having some sort of way of, getting them up in the air, fastening them, whether it's a post or whether it's attached to a building or a tree or something like that. Making sure you've got supplies to manage that so you can have night fighting.
Yes, thank you, Kazan. That's awesome. At Book of Heroes, the Jedi event just recently, they had ditch lights out there, and I think some of us were here for that. King Bear can talk about it. Kazi can talk about it. Like, it was awesome to be able to have those lights. And I don't think I've ever had a time where we didn't have some sort of lights like that. But I know that there have been a couple times where we didn't, and it made a difference, right? So good point, Kazan. Definitely something good there. Screech, did you have something as well? Oh, a megaphone. Heck.
Yeah, I was gonna say megaphone because recently upgrading to the one that I have now is huge, but even just a $10 or $15 one is great. Also on the spool of rope point from the last slide, because ELW had gone through a previous one, and at some point before I became champion, it had been broken or misplaced, so I had to replace it. But I tried to cut all of the links into 20-foot sections of rope.
Oh yeah, we haven't told them about that, right?
Okay.
Keep going. Keep going. Great. Heck yeah. Buckets. Hell of an idea. Didn't even think about that. You had to have stuff to carry stuff in, right? So it's always good to think ahead and think of what supplies you're gonna need to pull off your vision. The stuff on the screen, this is just a few examples that somebody rushing to make a quick PowerPoint put onto paper. But all great ideas, things I hadn't thought about, all great ideas. Thanks, Parrot. I appreciate that. Execution, good for the love of goodness. This is one of the most challenging things you can do, right? Execution. How much time do we have for setup? I touched on changing the feel for each game in between games. For the love of God, don't be like that. How do we let what games looking at for this? Are they well informed? When running your games, are we playing in them or are we having the right track by pushing the game design out? Or do we know how to tweak those games and tweak out if there are different routes? There's so much more I could have put on here. Y'all tell me if you see it, type it in the chat, interrupt me, say something, I'm cool with it. But how much time you have for stuff? Are we changing the field in between games? I think this is. Oh. Okay, I'll give it a second. Let me know when I'm good. I'm so sorry. You're good. Awesome. How much time do we have for setup? Are we changing the field in between games? This can be an extremely crucial thing to happen. It's a great idea. Because if you're making these huge games and it takes you 30 to 40 minutes to set up a big game, right? You don't have time to go back and set up another big game between games, right? So figure out a way that you can maximize the amount of time that you have with the games that you're running, right? This is something that I saw Screech do recently where all the games that we played revolved around one field. He just tweaked things. It was epic and amazing, and Reeves had safe places to stand because I don't like getting hit with arrows, and I know he doesn't either, right? So it was awesome to be able to see that and have that happen. And it was a great way to maximize the amount of time, right? Because you can have multiple games in the amount of time that it takes you to set up an entire kingdom field. So always great to be cognizant of those things. Yeah, I know. It's the way I am. Everyone, it seems like a question about something else. Zip off like Sonic, right? How do we let others know what game we got for this? Are they well informed? I think this is huge. We have to let our players know what because there's so many different factors that you may not have thought that may come into play with that, right? We need to make sure they're informed so that they can make these battle companies can get together and strategically plan things out, right? Everybody loves to get into a game and have fun doing it, right? And this can be one of the most ways and easiest ways for you to be able to help build that roadmap for them in order to find that success, right? Because having fun can be success, right? Just playing on the field can be success. But when you get out there and you don't know what's going on, you're already at a disadvantage. Everybody's at that disadvantage. And the problem is that when you're trying to explain it, you're going to spend an hour trying to explain kingdom level game when you could have released it online and just, hey, does anybody have any questions? It can be so much more flavorful and so much better to just give your to just give your players something they can use, right? So that way they can be able to play those games and know how things work and how things are going to operate. And you can already be reassured that you've done your due diligence and they share that information. Don't do what I did. Publish those games and make sure everybody knows. I thought it'd be really cool to like make it a surprise and all that. And that doesn't work. It really doesn't. It got met with a lot of bad lashing because of, they're right. You should let your player what they can do, and they can do. Does anybody have a time whenever a game didn't get put out, or maybe they built a team for something but they didn't know what was going on? Has anybody ever had one of those happen before?
Yeah. It was at, I think, the last symposium, but we had, you were part of the squad, Oz, but we were going to do a big enchant stacks for the dungeon, a multi-room dungeon, and then a short while before we entered the dungeon, we were told enchants will fizzle between rooms. So we're like, oh, that ruins our whole plan. So we went from having a solid plan to going in with no plan.
Yeah, I gotcha. I don't remember. Oh, I do remember that. Yeah. I actually do remember that.
Yeah, Marauders Mop.
See, yeah, Marauders Mop. I was gonna bring it up because I didn't want to like pat myself on the back. Marauders Mop was so good. It was just a bunch of dudes playing a game, having fun, and it didn't always require wacky bats. We basically cleaned a dragon's tomb and got out for free because of how impressed he was with our job. That's what I'm talking about. Make games that people can have fun in, and make games published so that they kind of know what's going on. It's always helpful for those sorts of things. When running games, are we playing them or are we actually helping direct traffic and pushing that game design? This is a controversial subject. It depends on who it is. I'm just going to tell you, me, myself, I tried that once. I made a game, I played in it, I thought it was going great, and then people had no idea what was going on, and we had to literally shut down the game for a minute so I could re-explain. So always make sure if you're the Kingdom champion, in my opinion, don't play in your games, right? Make sure that your design and your vision and all of that is being pushed, communicating with your reads, communicating with players, letting them know, walking around, be mobile, be a pillar that people can look at for guidance while this game is going on, not you in the objective of the game. You want to make sure that the games you're playing, the games you're planning, people can actually see them go off. You can be there to help nurture, just like a grow park or a chop. Make sure you're there to kind of hold the hand, get them walking, get them running, and going. Always make sure you're up for that because I called this controlled chaos earlier. I think all of us that have ever played on a kingdom level field know exactly what I'm talking about when I say controlled chaos. You can be so effective in helping direct that traffic, making sure that game design and that vision that you've got playing out on the field actually moves towards fruition so you can make sure it happens, right? And also, too, the next one, how do we tweak the games in between rounds if there are rounds? How do you tweak the game in the middle of the game to make sure that someone like Subway isn't doing Subway things and just poking holes in it, right? make sure that you're there, you're present, running that game, doing the things that you need to be doing to make sure that that vision is going. And then if there's multiple rounds, right? We've played in tons of kingdom level games where there are multiple rounds. Make sure you understand and have seen what's going on. Communicate with your reads, communicate with the people around you so that you can understand that in between rounds, if you need to tweak something, you're there for it. Always be present in the things that you're doing when you're trying to execute something, because people are going to look at you and they're going to want to figure out what's going on if they don't know. And you're the best source of information for that game because it's your bloody game, right? Be present, be effective for that, right? Has anybody had any battle games where they were just confused about what was going on, and maybe a read or the kingdom champion or even the local champion help them understand kind of what was going on? Has anybody ever had that happen before? Feel free to unmute yourself and throw some words at me. I love it. This is an interactive thing. Oh yeah. And something I've seen recently Screech do that I never even really thought of to do, or maybe I thought of it but never did it. He printed cards for the players to read, to have something tangible to look at, kind of like those arm sleeves where you put your spells in it for like sports players and stuff. He printed out cards and gave them to everybody, the monsters that he was having run while his vision was happening, right? I thought that was a tremendous idea on execution. It informs your players, it allows them to do what they're doing, and allows them to help you help others make that game happen. Right. So always be present. Does anybody else have any feedback on that or anything like that? All right. I'm going to move on. Oh,
Sorry, I would say trying to be consistent throughout your reign about what your terms are. So like, let's say you have like a heavy object. How many hands does that take? What can you do with it? Can you run? Can you walk? Like, what does it really mean? Or like, what is the timing? That you say like looting one, looting two, looting three. Can you say it as fast as possible, or do you have to say it like a certain pace? Or like, let's say that you have an out of bounds. Um, you know, if it's like a hard boundary, is it you step on line with 1 foot, you're dead? Is it 1 foot totally across the line, you're dead? Does it have to be both feet outside the line? And being consistent that, throughout the reign and making sure that's clear to everybody. Just saying like, oh, it's a hard boundary. Like Reeves may interpret that different. The players may interpret that different. So just, not taking for granted that they don't, that they know what it is. So being, specific and clear and trying to be consistent about that, I think is very helpful.
and once again, you're exactly right, Kazan. Thank you for that. You always want to make sure that people understand the terms that you're playing under, right? Being consistent, being there, being available. And here's a subject that I didn't even think about. Before your games start online, things like that, being available for your players to ask questions about. Maybe they thought of something you didn't think of to poke a hole in it, and then you can patch that hole, right? So always be available for players whenever they have issues or questions or anything like that, right? Always be present. I think that's one of the biggest things with Kingdom Champion that I've always loved, is just being present and being there, because like what Haraldr said when he was touching on the ban process for a KGMR, right? The Kingdom Champion doesn't have that burden on them. Obviously they can if the monarchy wants to do like a full team cohesion, but you're there for the fun, right? You're there for the nitty gritty. Sometimes it's not as fun. Sometimes you have to be straight with people and be stern and explain things, and they may not like it, right? And that kind of leads into my next point here. Feedback, the icky of everything. And let me tell y'all something. I had huge problems with feedback. I thought feedback when I became champion was people telling me what I did wrong, and I did not like it. How do we handle feedback after those games? Do we use feedback after to learn from it, or do we apply it as we see fit? Do the opinions of those players matter? And what did we learn? The good, the bad, and the ugly, right? This is one of the most touchy subjects because it can really depend on the person, right? But I'm teaching the class, so I'm going to tell you how I did it from my point, and I did not do it well at first. I took people's feedback as criticisms of what I was trying to do with my vision. I took it bad. And it was brought up to me by several people, Haraldr kind being one of those, that I needed to be able to accept feedback and understand it for what it was meant for. It was meant for something for me to grow as a kingdom champion, not as an attack on what my vision was that I was trying to pull off. How do we handle that feedback? How do we take that sort of a thing and move forward with it, right? Because sometimes feedback can be a shot to the gut, right? But we got to learn how to pick ourselves up from that, learn from that, and move forward, right? Even in life, that's how things work, right? So how do we use that feedback after the games? Do we use it and learn from it? Or do we use it and apply it as we see fit? Do we use it as a way for people to be able to learn from other people have seen they may not have enjoyed? And you take that information and you actually do something with it, or do you just apply it as you see fit, right? Obviously, this is one of those things where it's a more the person sort of challenge, right? But for me, I didn't take that feedback great. And then I had people kind of grab me by the ear and lead me away and teach me that feedback is there for a reason. And I have to be able to understand it and accept it for what it's meant for, even if they don't mean it that way. I have to accept it for what it's supposed to be meant for. Accept the feedback, learn from your feedback, and take that for what it's worth, because on point 3, do the opinions of the players matter? For the love of God, yes. Those are the people that voted for you. If you want a second term, those are the people that are going to vote for you twice, right? So you always want to make sure that you're not just being a people pleaser, that you're also being someone who can take that information, interpret it for what it's meant for, and then utilize it in a better way. Take something that might have been a little bad, pick it up and make it something good. Take something that was ugly, that didn't run right, and make it bad or make it good, right? The good, the bad, the ugly. Take something and make it better, right? Because those opinions of those players matter, because you're literally doing things that involve them. So if you can't take their feedback, then you need to be able to learn a way for you to be able to do that, because those things matter. Learn as you go. Nobody is ever going to go into a kingdom position and never learn something. And if they do, they're not doing it correctly, because they should be learning from our players, from our kingdom, from everything, and better ways to be able to do things moving forward. Take that feedback, do something with it, and make the game a better place. Like what Haraldr said a little bit ago, I actually am going to steal that because I love that line. You want to take that position and leave it better than when you found it, right? You may not always hit the mark, but at least you can do your best to try. And I think at the end of the day, that's what really matters when it comes to things like feedback, criticism, maybe a little bit of attacks on the way you did stuff, if that's the way you look at it, right? Always make sure that you can take those things and do something positive with them, because people will see that at the end of the day. And it doesn't matter if they're going to vote for you, but a bad champion, park champion, kingdom champion, can make a game bad for players where they don't want to come back. So always be approachable, always be able to take that feedback, and always be able to go through and do the things that you need to do to make it better than where you found it. right? So I'm going to leave that here with that. This is for questions, feedback, any of these subjects. Does anybody have anything that they want to talk about? One of the biggest reasons for posting games ahead of time is to get that feedback Oz mentioned a little bit ago and make tweaks if needed. Also, it's great for marketing, for getting new players excited about Park. Hell yeah, Screech. Way to chime in on that one. I love that. I think a live Q&A a month before a Kingdom Battle game event could be very helpful, especially for establishing expectations of different game rules and finding possible faults. Yes, Parrot. Yes, I love that. Now, finding the availability for that, I think, could be the challenge. Love the idea, and I love where your mind's at with that. Because we need to be able to figure out how things are going to work. Let people look at it before they play it. Let them poke holes. I love that shit. You can learn how to build. You can have a much better game design. If a Kingdom champion does that, we always exactly, and it can here. And I don't know if that's what you meant, but you can always use that as feedback for the future, right? You remember when Laryl said this on this thing? Do you remember? Like, it was so good. We can go back to that and play it and learn from it. Keep people like Kazan, who is the pillar that we stand on their shoulders on with, right? Keep people like that. Keep those voices. Keep those recordings. Keep all of that going, so that all the stuff that people did before, and still maybe forward with it as well. Right? Does anybody have any like questions, feedback? This can be feedback for any of these different points that I put, even points that I didn't make that you may think may be crucial to maybe something like this moving forward. Does anybody have anything like that? Just unmute yourself, start shouting at me. I'm good with it. Crickets. I love it. Crickets. And that's okay. That's okay. So I think what I'm going to do here, if y'all have any other ideas, feedback, anything like that, you're more than welcome. I'm going to stick around for a little bit on this channel. You're more than welcome to ask questions, share ideas, thoughts, things like that. But Laryl, this will be it for my presentation. I'll hand it back off to you, let you do your thing, but I'll be here in case people have questions, ideas, whatever. Thank y'all for letting me do this too. I appreciate it. And sorry about the headphone thing. I'm going to work on it for the future. I didn't realize it would be this bad. But thank y'all.